Questions for myself or my colleagues?
Governor, wasn't the problem the amount of doses that are not available? Pardon me.
The federal government allocates dosages by week. We exhausted all the vaccines that we have received to date, week 1 to 5. They've been allocating dosages for 5 weeks. Yesterday, we exhausted all 5 weeks allocation. We are now starting to receive week 6 allocations, which trickle in during the week. They're sent by Washington. They're delivered by Washington to individual locations. Washington literally uses, in some cases, FedEx, believe it or not, delivery services. But we're now starting to get some of the week 6 allocation, and that's what we're using today. So we'll be going week to week. We get 240,000 dosages in week 6. And we're using those dosages. Just to give you an idea of the proportion here, 240,000 dosages per week. We have 7 million eligible people, okay? So you need to get to 7 million people. That's everybody who's eligible now. Healthcare workers, essential workers, 65 plus. 7 million at 250,000 doses a week. This is going to take us 15, 16, 17 weeks. Even at 250,000 dosages a week, we now do about 80,000 dosages per day. We could do 100,000 dosages per day easily. So we're dependent on the supply. We have the distribution network. We're dependent on the supply.
How soon will a site like this be getting appointments, given that it's opening at a time when we've exhausted the doses? And also, is the state working with the city to open these new sites, or is it opening in sites where the city has already opened, kind of overlap?
No, we know where local governments open sites, and we coordinate with all those sites that they're opening. As Henry Munoz said, and Congressman Jeffries, the nice thing about this is we bring the vaccine to the people. You know, we don't say you have to schedule an appointment, go into the Javits Center or somewhere else. It's here. So that's why I'm stressing, come and get your vaccine. It's the acceptance of the vaccine. We're bringing the vaccine to the community, in this case, to the residents in this building. Please take it.
How soon are the appointments going to start here?
Today, Henry, 9 o'clock. That's why we have to take one more question. Go ahead.
There is some amount of dosages
the White House said yesterday that they were receptive to what you were asking for, an investigation by the CDC into supply. Can you tell me, have you had any conversations with the federal government, the new federal administration, and what are your thoughts on an investigation into New York's supply issue?
Look, I have a very good relationship with President Biden. He's been a great friend for a long time. The person who runs the what they call the COVID task force is Jeff Zients. I've known him for many years. He's a pro. What happened here is inarguable. The federal government said the priorities are healthcare workers, essential workers, and then they went to 75 plus, and then they went to 65 plus. That's 7 million people. They then said, don't worry, we're going to increase the supply. That's what they said. They said they had additional dosages in reserve that they would send, because it's absurd to say 7 million people are available, but I only have 250,000 dosages per week. They said we'll increase the supply. They never did. They never did. Our number actually went down. We went from 300 to 250. So now you have a situation in New York, and by the way, states all across the nation, where you made this whole population eligible, but you don't have enough supply, and you've actually created anxiety and frustration by opening the valve that large when you only had a trickle of dosages. And that's why people are frustrated. I'm eligible, but I can't find a vaccine. Yes, and it's going to take like 17 weeks before at this rate, we get enough supply for that population.
There's a certain amount that are in reserve that were meant for second doses, but obviously, as we've been talking about, those doses are out. Should those vaccines that we're going to use for those second doses be used for people's first
That
doses?
only works if the federal government approves it, all right? That's a federal guideline. In other words, what they say is, when you come in today to Somos, you get your first dose. They reserve a second dose for you when you get your first dose. And then they send it to us 21 days later. The federal government could decide, and this is what the Trump administration said they were going to do. You can use, we'll send you second dosages, and you can use them as the first. The reason why the federal government has to agree is because they have to agree that they're then going to send you enough second doses in the future. Otherwise, you wind up giving people first dosages, and then you don't have a second dosage for them.
So it's not up to the city, what you're saying?
No, it has to be approved by the federal
Do you
government.
think it should be approved by the federal government?
If they have the production to produce enough second dosages, yes. But they have to make sure they have enough to do the second dosage. In other words, that's the federal calculus, right?
But in your opinion, is it better to get more people get their first doses or get everyone that has already gotten their first dose a second dose?
It's better to get more people dosages as long as you're sure you can get them the second dose. The last thing you want on top of this chaos is people get a first dose and then they come back for their second dose and you say, we ran out. Any of my comments, colleagues want to make any comments? Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you. They have to get to work here.